I just had to work it out. I'm at my friend's house.
Oh, right. I hope this is a good time.
No, it's fine. We're looking after the dog and we've just been swimming in the sea, so it's been very nice.
Oh, nice. Whereabouts are you?
In Cornwall, down near Canbourne, so we've been down on the coast. It's been very nice.
Nice.
I'm not far from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were in the ocean yesterday, but it was it was really flat, so there was no surf, no waves or anything, but still really nice.
Yeah, it's pretty refreshing. We went surfing last Friday in Newquay. That was really nice, but it's been quite wet since, but that's been good because I've been writing. It's a busy time.
So I guess you're writing your PhD thesis.
Yeah, I hand in at the end of September, so it's been I've had so much fun over the last 3 years, and actually writing up is still fun because I love what I'm doing, so it's okay. It's long days. I'm pretty determined though and interested, so it's all right.
Nice. That's awesome that you get to do a PhD on something that's so interesting and that you'd want to do anyway, and then you get to kind of have funding to do it.
Exactly. No, that's it. And being funded to do something you really love for 3 years is just the best treat, really.
It's kind of, I guess it's like the best thing that education has to offer. Like if you get it right, it can be really, really good. It's just that most people are in PhDs that they just find a massive burden and not very inspiring.
Yeah, and it's still been a massive challenge to do it differently and to look at new methodologies. And I'm using post-qualitative approaches and post-human approaches, so looking at the world in a new way, and it's new to the university, even though it's not new to the wider academy. So it's been fun trying to think about how to bring poetry and creativity and storytelling into a very, it's still a linear PhD, but I'm writing it like a rhizome, so it's all interconnected like a network. So I get to put cool things in it. Yeah, no, it's really fun.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like a molecular biology, microbiologist, plant scientist by training. So when you say rhizome, I'm like, oh, yes.
Yeah, so like looking at the world like a rhizome. So yeah, it connects directly to that.
That's really cool. Cool. I'm trying to remember how we got connected. I think it's through edge-ucation, was it? Through Felipe's?
Yeah, through the Edu on Tour, the Edu Shifts group. There was a Facebook group, wasn't it? And I saw that you said that you were edge walker, and I was like, wicked, that's someone else is questioning society and looking for something cool. So,
walking on the edges. Yeah. Actually, just on the Cornwall, sorry, my brain is like rhizoming everywhere, but on the Cornwall thing, we're planning on driving to Newquay on Friday because there's going to be waves. So if you're about, you could always see it.
That will be lovely, but I'm driving all the way to Lifeways to Emerson College tomorrow. But yes, it's so cool. I would love that. Yeah.
You're going to Emerson College?
Yeah, I run the parent and child group there for the last 7 years. So I do, it's my like week of Steiner land. And it's great. I've been doing loads of crafting. We're doing birthdays as our theme. So I've been making lots of little birthday crowns and making up a story. Because one of my big things in Steiner education is it can be too Christian and patriarchal, so it's trying to bring the essence and the magic in a more inclusive way and less heteronormative in terms of what are the families, and so it's fun to keep the beauty and the magic but to make it fit today's society. So it's
so is Emerson Steiner?
Yeah, big
Steiner. Because I did teaching at YIP, which is like a Steiner youth program in Sweden, which maybe you came across.
It's at Jana, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've been to Solvik School. I really like there with Per Album, sort of the radical secret one through the woods across from Jana.
Oh, cool. I did not know about that. What's that called?
It's called Solvik, and it's these little hobbit houses. They're amazing. And it's sort of democratic Steiner. So
everything.
You can choose to be in the class, but it's all about risk taking. And I did a really cool workshop where the guy's in his 80s per album, and he had this workshop where you had benches. You put 3 benches on top of each other, and you climb on the top, and you had to jump off the benches. So, of course, the first time they fall around you. There's loud. It's really loud. And I turned around and looked at him, and it's like, that's really dangerous. I'm going to hurt myself. Do people hurt themselves? And he's like, yeah, a few people break a limb. And I'm like, ah. But then I climbed back up, and then landed on 2 feet, and they're standing behind you. And it's that magic of taking risks and learning from things, so you actually become more calculated. And he was just really cool.
That sounds really cool.
It was a really cool summer week for adults and kids, and innovative Intuitive pedagogy, it's called.
Cool. So do you think the Yip people know about this place? Because I don't think that I've ever heard them mention it, but
it's cool. A mile through the woods, so they should know about it, but some people don't look outside the bubble of where they are, because Yip's such a cool creative project, but they're probably just in.
Yeah, they're so in it. They're really deeply immersed. Cool. I'll definitely.
I saw some of your posts when you'd just been there in the last few months, was it? Yeah,
in April, and then I just published something about it last month, or this month. Sorry, like last week. Yeah, cool. So I kind of want to ask about your whole journey, like your PhD and how you got into that, and like what are the kind of communities that you visited. And I guess I'm in the process of sort of launching a project in learning and kind of challenging the paradigm of a university. And so I'm just really enjoying having these chats with people. I'm kind of thinking about it as like having conversations in the post-university, post-school world.
Yeah.
And yeah, it seems like you kind of live in that world, apart from the fact that you're doing a PhD. But
yeah, I know, it's a very strange, and even my PhD, one of the sort of subtitles is searching for the ideal school, but that's an oxymoron, because school's not the answer. So it's fun, but it's good to unpick that. So I have spent a lot of words unpicking ideal.
Cool. So in one sentence, what's the answer?
The answer is there is no ideal. Basically, we need a shift to a new way of looking at what is education. But my PhD's come up with two things. One of them is performing school tourism. So actually that being a methodology of actually going and spending time in different environments and learning. Not school's the wrong word, because school's an outdated word, but places that people are learning together. So sometimes they are still physical schools, but other times it's with communities. So it's that part, and then it's also looking at something which I'm calling the edge-ucation. So it's this crossover spaces of coping with our neoliberal world. So there's places where people are using alternatives within mainstream environments.
Cool.
Or even learning from each other. So I'm looking at the networking. So that's the rhizome, really. And then so that's the main things. I'm just looking at what we can learn from each other at the moment that already exists. But I'm not an Ofsted examiner. I come and visit schools and hang out and share stories. I'm not there to be judging. I'm just seeing and then sharing stories, because the idea is that you hear stories and what you like, you take on board. Yeah. And then you can just let the rest of it go.
Create kind of a patchwork of different, because we are humanities, like a patchwork of different people. So it makes total sense that, Steiner might work for some people, but not for others. Mainstream school might work for some people and not for others. Same with university. It's just a bit crazy that we have this one size fits all thing that everyone's supposed to go to, and then actually change themselves to suit it, instead of having the ecology of offerings that actually suit the ecology of humans.
Yeah, except for I think it's even more than that. I think a lot of the existing models are outdated. So we can cope in the current way. We can cope with different people will cope with different systems, but that's why this end part was meant to be these sort of towards a queering, towards a new way of looking at the world, a new consciousness of identity and education. Awesome. But I haven't got that yet. And that's been the most frustrating thing, was realizing the ideal doesn't exist. I was at the Green School in Bali last year, and it wasn't, I thought it was going to be my ideal. And then I was at Tamera for the second time in Portugal later on last year. And again, it didn't meet where I was.
Yeah.
These things are and some parts are great, but it wasn't exactly everything I was looking for. And it was quite a lot of inward work then to sit back and think, oh, okay, I'm really an optimist. I thought there would be a modern, like Steiner and all the other ideas that came out of the 20th century, there'd be something for now. But actually,
it's coming. It's definitely
coming. Yeah, and part of the education I'm arguing is sharing these stories. People are beginning to think differently.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to not use alternative education, because it's got lots of different views. I'm sort of educating differently. Still othering, but it's sort of different to traditional, so it's lots of different options. That means it can be state funded and independent, and homeschooling and
all sorts. Well, I've been actually like for the past year, I just stopped using the word education, or I'm trying to find every part of my blog or website and just like swap the word education for learning, because there's such an interesting change when you realize, you realize like in this conversation, we're learning, but when you think about education, it's, we're not going to get a qualification or any kind of recognition for this. And there's no stamp of like, you have learned. There's just a constant flowing, like your baseline is even changing, because as you learn, you change as a system. So then it's impossible to examine that, because you're not even the same person you were before you learned something. And so this kind of alive model of like things, being alive and learning actually being synonymous with living is something that's been quite a big turning point for me. That education is just, that word just doesn't even describe like what we're moving into, because adult education, what does that mean? Masters, PhD, like what about when you're 80 years old? Like that, there's just no word. We need to just like shed that word, I think, maybe, or reinvent it, because educare actually means to draw out. We've just bastardized it.
But there's a lot of privilege in this system. You see, the thing is, having a degree, and it's really hard for me to then be critiquing systems when I've got lots of degrees and I've had that privilege to even get to this position. So yes, so you end up in a tricky situation, especially if you've already got a degree. And the UK is quite a challenging place. If you don't have a degree, then it's harder to get work. So it's well-paid work. So it's big societal. I know that's part of what I feel your work is as well. It's really societal change, isn't it? This step to something else can happen. So.
Yeah, it's the system change, so that like you can't really like, I don't know if there's no point in just doing something very, very new that's like an on the ground, very new little pocket of something new. But it seems like part of the change needed is just the systems level change, like telling a new narrative, telling a new story. I think actually at this early stage, it's one of the most powerful things we can do is tell new stories. So that's something I noticed. When I left my academic kind of job, because I was in academia for a bit, and I was on track to kind of take a PhD. And actually I realized like the things that I was really yearning to learn, I had no need for a PhD in science for. And I had this, I think I'm half Hungarian, so I think I was with my grandparents in Hungary without any internet. And I had this total flash of an idea, which was basically to design like a self-directed master's for the year. Like if I'm going to leave behind this career in academia, I'm going to structure this year as like an opportunity for me to learn these things that I really want to learn. And so I kind of designed all these modules, got like mentors on board, like different milestones of like what I want to get done by December and by June. And, it's just like telling a new story for oneself. And then when I realized it was really powerful was when people would ask me like, what are you doing now? Like, how come you left, your job, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, I'm doing this self-directed master's. And like, I'm just, it's basically a Google Doc at the moment and a Google spreadsheet, and that's it. And they'd be like, oh my God, like, can I hear more? Like, how do you do that? Like, where do you get one? And it's like, that's,
it's just that is actually growing though. You can do one in San Francisco. And my boyfriend's starting a program in self-design from the States in master's program. So it's becoming more popular.
Coming about. There's this Open Masters gang.
That's right. And I've seen them in San Francisco,
Yeah, so they offer kind of toolkits and a community and stuff. So that's really cool. It was cool to find them. Like, I think I found them like 2 months after I started, and I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. There's like a whole like brand and group of people. So I think we just need more stories like that, basically, like new stories of how learning can happen without anyone having to give it to you.
Yes. But also I think even within in how we learn, so that's why I've been really interested in getting into methodology and thinking about reality and truth and all the things that are traditionally done in the academic world, and unpicking it and asking all those questions all the time. Why have you always written in this style? Why can I not write in the first person? Why does my voice not count? And then realizing I was at a big conference in America in in May at it's the University of Illinois. It's the International Congress of Qualitative Inquiry, and it's so exciting because you get these big academics stand up and start singing and read poems and tell personal stories, and it's deeply embedded in theory, and it's critiquing society. And what I like about it is it's questioning gender normativity, things that people are just, sexuality, all sorts of things of identity and privilege, really unpicking privilege, looking at social justice, and being brave to share different aspects of personal stories or just life in general, and looking forward. Of course, there's still massive hierarchies, and the patriarchy is still really, really strong there.
Yeah, in academia, my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this thing about what you do next, and the fact that people often ask you, or ask anyone, I think is quite interesting, because that's what keeps people asking me now. But I see it as a chance for an opportunity. When I taught for 2 years full time in my 20s, and after 2 years I realized that mainstream teaching was wrong for me. So I had a retirement
wrong, full stop.
Yeah, it was wrong, full stop. So I had a retirement party, and people just were like, well, what are you going to do? You're 27.
Retirement.
I was like, well, this isn't society. I'm not doing what I'm told for a long time. I've just read this most amazing book by a lady called Sharon Blackie, and when Women Rose Rooted, it's called, and it's looking about Celtic mythology and the heroine's journey, and it's just really, really powerful.
Heroine's journey, I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's just so cool. It's looking at, and it's very popular to connect back to shamanism and ancient stories from other parts of the world, but it's trying to say, if you are from the British Isles, then look at the British Isles. If you're from other places, go to that. Doesn't mean you can't learn from amazing stories from indigenous cultures around the world.
Yeah.
But she's really saying she'd always followed around the world and not looked where she is.
Yeah.
And so it's exploring her own ways. But one of the challenges is she worked for the cigarette industry, basically, as a psychologist. So she does critique her bad credentials, but she's then she's got this level of privilege of having this money to make these life choices.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to read, but also to step back and think, I really didn't want to get into it. Even after 2 years, I was like, I can't do this. I did spend a lot of years since then doing supply teaching and working in lots of different alternative places. Yeah. But I'm not very good at selling my soul. I prefer to be poor.
Decision. Authentic and poor, or lying to oneself proportionally to money. I don't know. That's not necessarily how it has to go, but I mean, that's why. So I'm part of a network spiral, and so that's partly what we're trying to kind of work out with kind of experimenting with these new ways of working and new like governance models, new ways of doing organizations. Because running a successful business that's not extractive. It's almost like an oxymoron though. Like I'm still working out whether I think you can have a business that doesn't just like extract something to translate it into something that then gets you money. You've
also got to live in some way within this world. And I'd been visiting schools for a few years before I got my PhD scholarship. So I am a hippie. I asked the universe, I was like, look, I need a way to keep doing this. How's that going to happen?
Please help now.
Yeah. And also to be recognized, because I visited so many places and was sharing all these stories, but as a woman, it was as a woman visiting these places, I didn't feel that people were listening to the amount of experience I've got.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So it was, and I also love reading and studying, so it seemed that it would be an awesome way to do a PhD that gave me that freedom. And as my scholarship is in freedom to learn, it's extra awesome because it's from the University of Hull. I go there once every couple of months, maybe less than that, sometimes more, and live in a van, travel around, constantly moving. I'm in the van with my boyfriend. Sometimes we house sit and stay with family, and we go away in the winter somewhere nice and warm or cold, depending if you want to go skiing or.
This is the dream.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
that's cool. I had a similar dream actually with my boyfriend. Like, let's get a van and visit like alternative learning institutes as inspiration. But you're doing that as a PhD. That's like living the dream.
It's been really fun. Really, really fun.
Is that so? Does University of Hull have like a freedom to learn scholarship or like department, or is that like a University of Hull special thing, or is that like a
It was fun. They did a project for 2 years. Two of the academics there. One of them is continued to be my supervisor. It's called Max Hope, and she does really cool research. And she did her PhD looking at democratic education.
Cool.
And there was a part of a network of academics from all around the country, and there were 6 different events. And there's a website, and they were sharing different people talking about what is freedom to learn.
Wow.
And I know Max is writing a book at the moment about what is freedom and the Freedom to Learn project.
That's amazing. So I'm just
It's really cool, but funding ended. There were 2 scholarships. It's me, and there's a guy the year behind me, and he's writing about rewilding education. He's really.
What's his name? I might have.
His name's Dan Ford. He lives in Lewes near Brighton.
Okay. No, I don't think I've come across him. I spoke with someone called Traian Bruma this morning. He founded the Alternative University in Romania, and he's just come back from like a 2-year journey around the world visiting, again, like alternative learning institutes. I thought you might come across him, but
no. What did you say? Traian
Bruma. I could connect the 2 of you if you like.
That'd be great. Thank you. I love connecting with other people who are actually visiting schools, because there's not many, and there doesn't seem to be many that I visit who also have an education background.
Yeah.
So people are often interested in, but they're entrepreneurs or they're looking for social change. But I'm also interested in people who've studied education, or don't need to be actually at school, but have a long-term interest in that.
I guess he's an entrepreneur in a sense. He studied engineering and then started the alternative. Yeah, I think a bit similar to my story, that we've both kind of done pedagogy in a way. Like I've run lots of workshops, and I do kind of, less teaching. I did think about the teaching route, but something about it, like I'm just not interested in doing curriculum. Like if it's me turning what I find inspiring into content and mentorship, then 100% yes. And I did that for like a year with this project where we ran these week-long transformative learning experiences at schools with a group of us. Like first thing I did out of university, and that I think that was like the massive kickstart to this whole journey, because I kind of realized like, oh, this isn't teaching. This is for me doing what I love and being able to give that to young people. And something about that just feels so different to teaching. It's really, really sad, because but
isn't that exciting? Because I don't see myself as a teacher anymore. So when people say, one of the other things was I basically researched myself out of a job. I don't want to go back to be a teacher or even use that label anymore. But what you're doing about inspiring and working with people is different.
Yeah.
So there's hope there. And I like to work also with hope.
Yeah, no, that it's true. There is hope. And that's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Because, I got that glimmer of like, wow, like, all we need, we were talking about this on Dartington. So I'm working with Schumacher here, and there's we're having these conversations around the future of learning in Dartington, which is like the bigger piece of land and trust that Schumacher is a part of. So one thing they considered, because they're doing a big renewal, regeneration, one thing they considered was turning it into like a multiversity campus of the future, which is pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah. So we're having all these conversations around like future of learning. And so I spoke about my experience at 225 Academy, which was this transformative learning thing, and kind of saying that I'm still getting emails now from teenagers being like, hi, you probably don't remember me, but when you ran, those workshops at my school 2 years ago, like I decided I wanted to study science at university, and now I'm going to go, and like all this stuff. Cool. And it was like, if you can deliver that kind of real like power and empowerment and inspiration in 1 week, then like what really is the role of like, schools that make our kids and students stay like almost the whole year, when actually all they really need is a space, like support and empowerment, and maybe like sessions on personal development skills, like public
speaking. I went somewhere that did that.
Sorry?
I went somewhere in Australia that they realised that kids can do a lot of autonomous learning, but there's certain things that adults can help with.
Oh, cool. What's the name of that?
It's called Coomwarra Village School. It's near Melbourne. It's in Victoria.
Cool. That's really cool to hear. I hope to visit Melbourne at some point. Yeah, I think my working model at the moment of like a school that I would have wanted to go to is one where like the agile learning centers sound like a great kind of model to start with.
And what about edge-ucation as well?
Sorry?
edge-ucation, who work with that. I've been worked a bit with Willy, who came up with edge-ucation, which works with the agile mindset.
Oh, cool.
In
No,
Netherlands.
I haven't heard of edge-ucation. I've only heard of the Agile Learning Centers, but I'll write that down.
Yeah.
edge-ucation. That's cool because we learn, well, what I've also been interested in is like within Inspiro, a lot of the things that we're working with in this kind of new ways of working directly translate to the new ways of learning stuff. Because, you know, we're working with Agile in the way we work. And then you see Agile being used as a model for learning as well. And it's like, it's interesting how working and learning actually kind of are very linked, and even on a spectrum of like, you know, you start by learning, and then once you kind of get enough skill to be able to make that your work, you just get paid to keep doing that thing that you were learning originally. So and
also I think it's really interesting if you've got places that have a set curriculum. So I might not like curriculum, I might not like high stakes tests, but what I'm excited about are when people say, look, we can make it more autonomous, we can change how we teach it. Yes, kids know they need to get to this endpoint to take this exam because that's the game we're playing, but how can we get there? And that's where agile learning and edge-ucation, I've seen it in action. It's really exciting because they can change how to do it. The other place I visited when I was in the Netherlands, which is really interesting, was a Socratic method school. Have you come across Socracy? That's a really cool,
yeah. What's the name of that?
The school's called Die Ruimte. But there's a group of people who are trying to make a film now about the Socratic method going on in the Netherlands. What drew me to it was I'm quite nervous about some democratic schools because of the model used in democratic schools is consent. So you have a vote, it's on the vote, continually on the vote. So if 6-4, whatever it is, you can be living in an environment where you really don't agree with what's going on, and you must. And then there's a lot of fines that happen. Kids make the rules, but the rules are then made and then you're fined, and I feel uncomfortable with it. But the idea of the Socratic method is consensus.
Yeah, which is what we use again at Inspiral.
I wondered if you might, because it's just so cool.
Yeah, because it's about actually, you know, it's about iterating until you get to something where everyone agrees that, you know, they wouldn't actually feel bad if that thing happened. Like, yeah, it's a more humane process. Totally. I actually have had very little to do with the democratic school stuff, but every time I tell anyone I'm into like new models of learning, or I say like I'm a learning architect, and they're just like, oh, so you're into democratic schools? And I'm like, no, that's like one very, very small part of the spectrum.
It's actually one of my challenges because I've had to start working out where my edges are. So when I went to some events, I stand up and I'm really radical and I'm questioning all these things. And so it was really good to find a model of democratic schools, because I realized that I don't agree with what's going on there. And that understanding of democracy is not my understanding of democracy, and not my understanding of education for the future. But it's hard because it's actually quite controversial if you're into alternative education to not be pro that version of democratic education.
It's almost like the mainstream alternative.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying it's so interesting about being an edge dweller and it being connected to a rhizome. So an edge dweller, if you're on the inside looking in, sometimes you can also be in the middle because you're around lots of alternative people. So it's this dance in a way of changing between them all. And but I often seem to find myself at the outside again, even in the alternative circles. I went to Finland to the International Democratic Education Conference last year, and I was giving a workshop because it's brilliant. It was open space. So I was giving a workshop on the ideal school, trying to get people's ideas. And some people just came in and said, well, my school's the ideal. And which is great because that's what they think. Or somebody said the Sudbury model is the ideal and then walked out. And I was like, oh,
okay. That's funny. One of the workshops, I actually didn't end up running at a 225 Academy, but I had it all planned out, and it was to run a like school within a school, like in the week that we had with the students, to have this kind of block throughout the week where we basically create a school within a school and design it as our ideal school. I think I'd still love to do that. It would be so much fun to work with students on that.
I did that in Switzerland at a really interesting, very, very exclusive American school called Lausanne American School. But
I know about it.
Yeah, the middle school is run by Paul Magnuson, and it's really, really innovative. And he uses edge-ucation, agile mindset, lots of creative approaches. And they were doing a project on well, on the ideal school. So I went in as the expert, and they've been working on it for a few weeks, and then I gave a talk and I worked with them. And what was interesting was 2 groups did come up with creative alternatives. A lot of them created what they knew, but one group of boys designed a gaming school.
Amazing.
It was really exciting. They had individual gaming time. They had time where they could design games, and then they had a big, instead of having an auditorium to have assembly in, it was for big interactive tournaments.
Wow.
And then the best bit was they had a massage parlor, because you're going to have sore arms and shoulders after playing games all the time, obviously.
Oh, obviously. And then obviously you need like a food station to just like fill up your smoothies or your milkshakes, and that's awesome. That's great.
It was really fun because they got what I wanted them to get. I wanted them to really, I kept walking around saying, look, school doesn't need to be like this. You don't need to have uniform. You don't need to have the times of day or the building. Or
isn't that really sad though, that like our kid, like that just shows that part of their imagination has kind of already been kind of walled off within the system of just like, nope, that's not that, you need to be within this like thought space. And it's like, no, how do we unwire that to kind of get back into total freedom?
Well, there's lots of writing, isn't there, about not only you need to de-school the system, but it's also you need to de-school teachers.
Yeah, definitely.
So when I said before, I'm interested in teachers that have visited schools, it doesn't mean that I'm not interested in other people. It's just that sometimes it's interested to people who've been conditioned in a similar mindset that I'm sort of trying to break out of, to see what they see. Because you get different understandings.
Yeah, super interesting. So something we're talking about at Schumacher right now is, I'm connected to YIP and Team Academy, and there's someone else who's now teaching at Cat Nomads and someone else at Chaos Pilots, and we're talking about taking the kind of faculty, part of the faculty of Schumacher to kind of tour around those and then host all of those, groups of those faculty at Schumacher. And then something my mind kind of jumped to was like, why don't we invite like mainstream teachers to kind of tour around as well? I mean, imagine how transformative that could be, if just to see the alternative, to understand that there is more possible.
That's part of the point of my PhD, in the performing school tourism part. So I was in New York for a week in May with some students from the University of Texas. They've got a really cool professor called Michael Carmen, and he saw me give a paper at Plymouth University earlier on in the year. He came up to me and said, I visit schools too. And he happened to be going to New York same time as I was. So we had 3 pre-service teachers, and it was a module at their university to visit lots of different alternative schools. We had the whole visit, a wide range of schools.
Wow.
And in New York City, from charter, public, independent, all sorts. And then they had to reflect on it, and we're working together to write a paper, but with the students, about how they're learning about becoming teachers.
Wow.
So that part of, because otherwise your teacher identity comes from your 3 schools that you went to as a child, and maybe your few placement schools, and your parents, and maybe your culture around, your society. So you just recreate the same. And many teachers I speak to when I visit lots of schools have had no chance to visit any other schools, because there isn't time. They're working so hard that there isn't time to look out from where they are. So they often say, thank you for coming and just telling me about the place down the road. Maybe I can now email them and talk to them. And
I think that's a really interesting part of the movement, is how can we offer that too, because teachers get long holidays, so just to think about using some of that holiday to up level their kind of working model of what is possible.
But also I think in training teachers, I mean, I don't want to get a job as a teacher trainer, because I don't want to teach them to do but I would be interested to go into places to offer other ways of thinking, and how they could still fit what the government wants, but they could begin to think differently. But there is still slightly a thing of compromise. And I'm not the best at long-term compromising.
Compromise of like, you still need to meet the exams. But to be fair, that's really exciting, because if I think back to my lesson time, we did like so little in the lessons. Like most of the reason I passed my exams was because I actually like went home and like read it myself, or like, learned about it in the holidays. And I definitely had like a very privileged education. But even in that privileged education, it's like, how much, you know, in the lesson time, couldn't we just be like having a good time, seeing as like the main, you don't learn that much necessarily in a group of like 30 students, like you're all talking, it's boring, you're tired, you're hungry, whatever. So interesting.
Well, in that same democratic school in the Netherlands, they were doing this other really cool thing where they looked at the primary maths curriculum. So they said that, they looked at the teacher had looked at the curriculum from 6 to 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they worked out a program where you could do all of it in 3 months. So when
but that's
so
the thing, you do it out for no reason.
Yeah. So what she said she was running it with the kids. She was like, when they were ready, because it's democratic school, they choose when they're ready. They had to give her a commitment of 3 months. So they come and say, right, I'm ready to learn it. And they'd have 3 classes a week with her and homework between those classes for 3 months, and they would complete the whole 6-year curriculum.
Amazing.
And then you can take it wherever you want.
But
that proved it, yeah.
Because it just shows that what's the point in starting learning at 6 when if you could just learn, well,
or if you're interested, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, because I guess there is also like wanting, I think there's this kind of scientific concern of like, don't we need to be like wiring the brain for learning? But nobody really knows like whether that's going on if you're just, you know, teaching times tables to a 6-year-old. You know, couldn't there be other ways that we're wiring the brain for like taking in data and visualizing and that sort of thing?
And a lot of the rest of Europe don't start formal learning until much later. So that's something I'm also trying to unpick when I'm visiting places is the cultural expectations. In the UK, it's the curriculum that your four-year-olds are sitting down, that by 5 they're doing this and that.
Yeah.
Which you go to the rest of Europe and they look at me and go, why are you talking about that? We don't do that till they're 6 or 7. You're mad. So
my mum is Hungarian and she found it. She was like so shocked because they start at 7. And even when they're 7, they're not really, you know, getting their hands super dirty and in like sitting down and doing lessons and stuff.
Yeah.
So crazy. Ugh.
But that's also, I've been writing a chapter of my PhD last couple of days on my relationship with Steiner Waldorf education and visiting schools around the world and some of the challenges of Eurocentrism.
Yeah, I mean, Steiner was an old white man. You just can't get away from that.
And that's a key theme of my PhD is the ohm, the old white man with... I have lots of ranting about ohms.
Wait, the ohm is the old white man?
So, yeah.
Just what old white man?
With privilege. Yeah, ours as well, old white women.
Okay.
So I don't want to, you know, but there's a lot of ohms, especially in Waldorf education that I've come across when I visit schools, and lots of different patriarchal elements that I'm trying to unpick.
Yeah.
And so it's just trying to look at these things differently. There's a great academic called Rosie Braidotti, and she talks about phallocentrism. I think she's
phallocentrism is in phallic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad.
I like her a lot. So there's some really good, interesting ways of unpicking what's become the alternative status quo in a way.
Interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting. I mean, interestingly, at Schumacher, there's not much. There's a Steiner school really close by, but the college really doesn't engage. And it was always interesting to me of like, that's so strange, you know, like Steiner education seems to be the other kind of alternative paradigm. But I have noticed that a lot of people kind of avoid the Steiner stuff because of the baggage. I've heard people talk about, you know, there's this baggage, and that's interesting to me that, you know, even within the alternatives, there's kind of like, you know, some of it is, there's a whole ecology basically. Like there's no gold standard of it. But
it's also bits because I'm still a trained Steiner teacher. So there's a lot of things that even though I'm critiquing it massively, that I'm not really letting go of because I love certain aspects.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably the same about everything. It's the ecology, isn't it? The things I've taken on board, the things I think are beautiful.
Yeah. What would you say are the top 3 things that you really love about Steiner education?
I think it's the environment. So actually, when you go into the environment, it's beautiful, it's calm, it's not often natural. There's a lot of time outside, but there's a lot of care into the whole person. I think that's probably my really big strong point. And the fact they are storytelling. So through doing Steiner training, I've become a storyteller. So it's a thing that I do. I like telling stories. I like working with curative storytelling as well. So there's a way of helping children through storytelling. Yeah, I think that's a really powerful part.
Amazing.
And yeah, I worked for a Steiner organisation called Die Freunde. They do something called emergency pedagogy, where they go to work with refugees mostly, and after there's been a disaster or something around the world. And I went to Lesbos, and that was really interesting to work with unaccompanied minors and to see the sort of the Waldorf methods in working really creatively. So we were using art therapy, eurythmy and movement, and things that I maybe have been rude about in the past, seeing them work in action, not necessarily day to day in the classroom, but as a bit like homeopathy. It was this drop of nourishment and this magic. It seemed to work. And I was doing storytelling, and it just seemed that I was like, okay, I could see how this works. And I came back feeling really quite, well, harrowed but enriched by the experience.
Nice. I definitely sometimes catch my inner, because so Steiner in some ways is patriarchal still, but I sometimes catch my own kind of colonized mind, not just about patriarchy, but just like, privilege and looking down on alternative things. And yeah, it's like this internalized patriarchy or colonization thing that, we lived, and you and I both grew up in England. So it's like, we can't really deny that it hasn't impacted the way we think. And when I first heard about Steiner and like eurythmy, I think I had this like reaction of like, ugh, like, no, like, whoa. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting that there's this kind of inner, judge that's still kind of, it was judgment. And then the more I found out about, the Steiner methods, the more I'm kind of like, oh, wow, like they're talking about being more human. Like, okay, there's some pretty weird stuff, but I mean, aren't we all weird? Aren't schools weird? Aren't exams weird? Like, where do you draw the line on weirdness?
My biggest critique, I suppose, is that I like mixed stage learning. And the philosophy, anthroposophy behind it is very much the levels of child development, and at each age things happen. So the curriculum is written for that developing child at that time in that particular age. And although big anthroposophists and a lot of Steiner Waldorf teachers would disagree with me, I think the world's moved on since the 1920s in terms of child development. So, and I'm just a big lover of mixed stage classes and children learning from each other in different ways. So I think that's my stumbling block at the moment. But kindergarten, I love Steiner kindergartens. I think they're just magical.
I went to a Montessori kindergarten. Okay. So I realized like, oh, I have been through something alternative. That's good. Had some experience. What a question that's kind of burning for me is what are like, again, I'm kind of fixated on the number 3, but what are the 3 like places that when you think back to visiting really shifted a paradigm for you? Like where did you kind of have like an aha moment of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that these young people are learning in this way, or wow, that is such a new model, or what kind of stands out to you?
The place Kumwara that I was mentioning in Australia, that it was so cool. I came back and I wrote an article about it. I was just like, okay, this is autonomous learning within a government curriculum. That's really clever.
Wow. Cool.
That really excited me. And there's a place in Lisbon, in Portugal, where a home ed project called Floresta, and that's run by this most amazing woman.
So we just had a bit of an internet fail. So now I'm just waiting for Alys to join again. You were saying about the Lisbon home education project.
Yeah, I was just saying it was really cool because it was inspired by Krishnamurti's work, and
I love Krishnamurti. It's a big
So she'd done a training. There was a 2-week training course at Rockwood Park a few years ago, and she'd done that. And there were two women that started this home ed project. The other one had a Waldorf background, so they were having a mixture of that, a mixture of the Krishnamurti. And you have to do a set government curriculum in Portugal. It's quite interesting. When I think it's 10, 5, 12, and well, it's 3 ages, but 10's the first one where you have to take government exams. Doesn't matter how you're being educated. So home educated children must take the exams as well.
Okay.
And pass them. But they decided that how are they going to do it? And what they did was they created an app. One of the teacher's husbands was working in something to do with computers, and he designed an app. So on the app was everything that kids had to do and to get like the learning goals that the government had set, but it was very interactive, so they could go, okay, I need to do that, and I think the teachers worked with them how they could get to that point. When they thought they'd got to it themselves, they'd click it and then they'd show it to a teacher. So it was a really clever way of making it much more autonomous in how they got to the end point. They knew they had to take the exam, they were given support in doing that, so the whole room was full of children doing so many different things, and then they came together for these circle times inspired from the Waldorf part and more sort of spirit in the woods, but they also connected to local communities. So they were working with the old people, with other people who were unemployed doing painting work. It was just really cool how creative, and they were liked by the local community. They converted an old church hall locally into being a community centre.
Wow.
And
cool.
Because often alternatives are maybe looked down to, or people are wary of. Why are those kids not going to the local school? Is often asked. And where this was so clever at engaging with the local community and working at a higher level with the government. So my friend had been networking with the government. She been part of a group networking alternative places around Portugal, and really getting people to know about change.
Cool.
So it was really exciting because it was about modeling and networking. So I'm not doing it on the ground at the moment. I've got lots of experience of working in the past, but I kept compromising too much. And I decided my journey was much more about sharing stories, I guess, and working with adults. But so it was really exciting. What she's doing is both parts.
That's really
she's
cool.
Actually, I mean, she's got a daughter who's 10. So I think also she had this direct link because she wanted the best for her child as well. So
yeah, you often find that, right, with people who convert to suddenly really caring about education later on in life. They're like, I have a child and there's nothing that's good for my child. So yeah, like enlightened self-interest in a way, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the quality of the video is kind of crappy, but it's all right. I'm gonna try and see what happens if I go back to the original spot, which is actually in our kitchen. It's my Skypey place.
The Skypey place, nice.
Good old Skypey place.
I'm very interested in project-based learning.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but I like when I've seen it work I saw it work in a charter school. I've seen it work in state schools in the UK. In the UK, it was particularly exciting working with the community and making work. Massachusetts, he leads up a thing called the expeditionary learning model, outward bound model.
Oh, cool.
It's real. He's got a really cool video on YouTube called Austin's Butterfly, and it's about the first thing you do is never the final thing. It's about drafting. So it's a cute video. It's with kindergarten kids drawing a butterfly from a photo and then critiquing each other's work and improving till the final butterfly that this 6-year-old, 5-year-old draws becomes a postcard that's sold all over the state. So it's the fact that what you do becomes, that's what I liked, is that you're not just working for your teacher, you're working for a wider project.
Yeah.
So it's really connecting life. Yeah.
Who did you say that was? Because I've heard of that Outward Bound before through a friend who kind of worked at a lot of Outward Bound schools or projects. It was kind of like expeditions, right?
Yeah, the physical expeditions is one part, but this is it's actually a model for teaching. So it's a project-based learning approach. Ron Berger.
Okay.
But cool. I went to the Evergreen Charter School in Asheville in North Carolina, and it was really, really interesting. Cool. It was interesting learning about the state's approach to their state-funded alternatives and how their charter schools are all a lottery. So it's learning about all the other challenges.
I'm just writing these down in the notes.
Ron Berger, not Berger, sorry.
Oh, Ron Berger, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ron Berger. Cool. I can, I've been asking you lots of questions, and maybe, if you have any questions that you wanted to ask, because we're almost up to an hour, but I thought complimenting you on like your journey and everything. So, yeah.
I think I'm really interested to find out what you're doing, because I feel that there's, sorry?
No, I didn't say anything, just awful internet.
Okay. I'm interested to see where your work is, because I might feel that there might be some cross.
Yeah, no, I'd be really happy to tell you about what I'm doing. So part of the time I'm working at Schumacher doing some teaching and more helping them look kind of see in a more networked way. So kind of, you know, there are these really great alternative institutions, but how can they interface with others, and how do they keep their alumni engaged, and how do you build a community, not just an institution? So that's part of my work right now, and helping. They've had a master's degree in something called holistic science, which is kind of science studied in a holistic way, and they're taking it offline for the first time in 20 years. And so I'm coming as kind of like a learning architect sort of thing, and I've got a background in science, and I'm helping them with that redesign process. So that's been really interesting to see, just seeing, you know, a master's degree kind of broken down into its parts and understanding what are the constraints, like, because it's actually accredited as a master's, so you can't just change anything with, you know, whatever whim. Or so yeah, that's been a really interesting process. And then the kind of moonshot or like project that I'm right now kind of getting off the ground and really excited about is something that I'm calling a networked university. And it's still it's still changing and forming, and I think everyone involved is kind of understanding more and more what it is in the process of doing it. But basically what we're trying to experiment with is the same way that Inspiral models a new way of working itself, while running kind of, you know, giving opportunities for others to learn about how to do that through consultancy, through running workshops, etc. But they actually also model it by doing it themselves. What I'm asking is, could we model a new way of doing things and a new way of being within a university context, and then run material on exactly that? So run workshops, run consultancy, and run programs around that, you know, collaborative, democratic, participatory model itself. So it's sort of taking what we do at Inspiral and then trying to focus on, providing a new learning model. I don't know if you've got that through all the, like, what's it called?
No, I've got it. And I think that's what I think is really exciting, because one of the challenges I'm finding is, well, it's great, I'm going to get a PhD, but I then don't want to go into the traditional. So what I'm saying is, I think that what you're doing is the future, because I'm connecting and meeting other people like me who want change, but we also want to work in places that create change. We want to be working in places that are always changing, they're connecting to the people, and the voice of students is everybody's voices. Well, like this ecology you're talking about is just integrated.
Exactly.
So yeah, that sounds a really exciting project, and something I'd be really interested in possible networking with you in the future, because that sounds awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it would be great, having just spoken to you, just hearing about all the experience and everything that you've got. I mean, partly what would be great is if the people who are this networked faculty of people are, you know, mainly at the moment people from Inspiral, so people who consult and run programs and education around these new ways of working. But one of my kind of dreams or visions is to have a whole like faculty, and it's playing on this idea of a university on purpose, because it's like, you know, who says that we can't be faculty as practitioners? Like, why do you have to have a PhD to be a faculty? Although you do have a PhD, so that's great.
Not yet.
Yeah, it still applies to people who, like practitioners who never got PhDs in this stuff, but to have a faculty who almost do like the meta part, which is like the faculty of new ways of learning. So then we can be running programs around, new ways of learning together. So whether that's like a boot camp in self-directed learning, or like what you just said about a design your own school program. I mean, that's awesome.
So cool. Yeah. Oh, well, I'd be really excited to be involved in something like that, because I feel that my brain's full of ideas that I'd like to share some and inspire people, and I'd learn from everybody. So yeah,
I think, I mean, I would love, yes, please, yes, that sounds amazing. And just thinking of the combination of these amazing humans who are doing the same sort of thing but in work, and like, you know, new ways of how can we build an organization, and what does it look like to collaboratively do this participatory budgeting or decision making. It's like, I think where my passion and that intersects is learning. So I'd love to chat more, and as it's growing and forming, I think part of the model is, could every member of faculty co-own this university entity as well? So a lot of it is just like whoever's kind of jumping in at the beginning helps co-create what it becomes, and I think that's the only way it can be, really. And
that's exciting, because you're then unpicking hierarchies and everything as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
Traditional models, which is
exactly
cool.
I guess if I had to have a tagline, it's like trying to create a university of practitioners who are experimenting with new models of human organizing. But I don't know if that just sounds too kind of high level. It's like, what so many things. But this is the kind of thing that there aren't any routes right now to finding out about. Like, if I want to build a new school, what are my options? Like, what could that look like? Or if I want to build a new organization, what are my options? So,
but that meeting of that first meeting of all those people could be a dreaming session, which will come up with an idea of the name and what you're looking for. You almost just need a few ideas like that to start that dream, that co-creation. Dialogic inquiry, when you're working in collective biography and you spend a week together and you write and you talk, and then you write into each other, and you do art, and you come up with a really interesting, slice of what is society, or what is that group of people thinking at that point. And it's really exciting. And I'm coordinating with some friends on theme of bodies, and we're going to Spain in September, and we're doing embodied workshops, lots of different things, and then writing and moving and then creating stuff together. So it's really cool way of critiquing society.
Cool. What did you call that? What is that? As like a practice, or
It's sort of collaborative writing as a method of inquiry. It's collective biography. But we're calling it, this new thing, as body as method. We're making that up, but we're trying to sort of look at a collaborative way of using the body to question the body.
That's really interesting.
It's pretty cool.
Have you heard of the dragon methodology?
Yeah, but I've never done that. Well, I did once, actually. I went to a workshop in Sheffield years ago, but I'd love to learn more about that.
That's one of the things in my toolkit, is dragon dreaming. That's really good for kind of collaborative projects and stuff. There's just so many tools like this, which is exactly why bringing together this network of people practicing new ways of being and doing stuff would be so exciting. Because I'm sure there's Theory U. I don't really know much about Theory U, but I know I want to know. And if you've got another practitioner offering that, then what excites me too is kind of playing with these new ideas of, okay, let's say we've got a faculty of practitioners, but then maybe the faculty could also run programs for each other as part of that model.
Definitely. I think that's exciting. That's super exciting too, isn't it? Because everybody's learning.
Then it's learning everyone all the time.
And often you don't get time to realize what you can learn from your peers in that way. So if you're the faculty, you realize how you can be, that rhizome continues in all directions. So it's,
I love the rhizome as well, I know there's that mycelium group in the States, right? That's another alternative education thing. But rhizome is it's kind of warm and tingly. Mycelium's a little bit like mycelium. Oh.
It's a bit different. What I feel I've got from this conversation particularly is where you're looking at using learning over education, because I'm trying so much at unpicking words, and I've been reading something recently where someone else had come up with the same thing that you're saying, and then I've been trying to think, why am I using those words? Because I spend so much time, I think that's part of doing a PhD, you can't have any assumptions. If I'm using something, why am I using that word?
It makes
sense. So this is that's really helpful for me to sink into that and go, do I want to keep using that word, or can I now step out of that word?
Awesome.
It's really exciting.
That's really cool. Well, thank you for all your total enthusiasm. It's so refreshing to talk to someone who's actually still technically an academic, but is actually doing it out of a place of love. And you're making it work. You're kind of saying, I'm going to live in a van, I'm going to live off this PhD stipend, but I'm doing what I love. And it was just, having come from academia and kind of felt this is where dreams are going to die. I'm kind of oh, good. There's still these pockets.
Well, I was just going to say is what I like is the actual connecting people. So these ideas that you've got, you disappeared.
I have, yeah, everything is frozen again. Really sorry about this. It's really frustrating. Right. You're back. Okay, good. So okay. You said something about connecting. That was the last thing I heard.
So I was just your thing about performing school tourism and how you learn from being with people. We might be living in a virtual world, but I'm very much, it's the physical things together. So this talking about learning as a group, sometimes you actually need to have that drive to connect as much as possible in contact with people. So hopefully we can meet face to face rather than screen to screen. Yeah. And I think that'd be really awesome, and others as well. And that would be really inspiring. So that's what I was really trying to say.
Yeah, that would be the ideal thing. I think once there's a momentum of people who are interested in this network, university, all sorts of different purposes. But I think that would be one of the first things, would be to like spend a couple of days together, because that's in Inspiral as well. We've got these heartbeats of the retreats. Like most of the things we're doing together are in this virtual world on Slack and Lumia things. So the retreats are super important. So you can actually get that body to body, face to face kind of recognition and knowing. And then once you go back on Slack, you're like, oh yeah, suddenly it's not just a virtual thing talking to you.
That sounds cool. That's really cool.
Cool. Well,
thank you for making the time to talk to me.
No, thank you. Like, especially if you're in your final kind of months of writing, I'm really grateful. And I'm really excited how excited you are. I'd love to like send you some stuff, some written stuff, and see what you think and get your feedback.
I love that.
Yeah, chat more.
Please do. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll be in touch.
Yes, email, Facebook, and all the things. Well, have a good evening.
You too. Night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.